Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The Chief of Cabinet of the President of Poland, Krzysztof Szczerski, has presented the programme for the Polish President Andrzej Duda's visit to the United States. The main purpose of the visit will be to sign the agreement for additional US troops in Poland. This signing will take place during the meeting between Duda and Trump at the White House on June the 12th. The presidential couple will also visit Texas, Nevada and California.
Zakończyliśmy rozmowy.
We've finished the talks between ourselves and the Americans regarding the increased number of U.S. troops stationed in Poland. The talks were held by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Pentagon with the support of the representatives of both presidents. The talks were accelerated by decision of both presidents. The original plan was to conclude this kind of agreement in September. President Trump's invitation of President Duda to the White House was an impulse which led to the acceleration of the process of negotiations. We can talk about an agreement today. I want to say loud and clear that this is not the end of the process. We've only finished the negotiations. Now, the final decision whether the result of the negotiations is good enough or not is in the hands of both presidents. The agreement of which we're talking about has two elements. One of them is a general political declaration concerning the obligations resulting from our military alliance as part of NATO.
Proces negocjacji.
An unknown assailant attacked a priest with a knife in the Church of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Wrocław this morning. The man attacked the priest as he walked to the altar to perform Holy Mass. The wounded priest was taken to hospital and the perpetrator was arrested by the police.
Today, before 7 a.m. in the morning, police intervened in the Church of the Blessed Virgin Mary where a 57-year-old man had attacked the priest. The man first spoke with the priest and then attacked him with a knife. He was caught by a couple of civilians who later handed him over to the police. Our men are working on a matter. The attacker and the witnesses are being heard in order to clarify the course of the incident. As far as we know, the priest was conscious as he was transported to the hospital where, according to the doctors, emergency surgery had to be performed. There is no threat to his life. We're waiting for further information from the hospital. The perpetrator was caught by bystanders and then handed over to the police. This is another situation in which hatred itself, but also turning people against priests, leads to situations like this. This is something that happens not for the first time in our country. We should finally draw conclusions.
Mexico has started implementing measures at its border with Guatemala to stop the flow of Central American migrants. US President Donald Trump had threatened to place 5% import tariffs on Mexican goods to the US starting today and increasing the tariffs incrementally every month until the migrant flow ends. As a result of the recent American-Mexican deal, Mexico has agreed to accept 8,000 asylum seekers from the US.
A significant number of Central American migrants are stuck at Mexico's southern border after Mexico deployed its National Guard along the Saquaid River, which separates Mexico and Guatemala. Many of the migrants and migrant activists accuse Mexico of having betrayed them in order to keep good relations with President Trump.
What the US and Mexican authorities are doing is not right. It's a big problem. Imagine so many people are coming and many people cannot return to their countries because of the situation we're going through. We want the United States government, the Mexican government, to listen and provide an opportunity to cross the border into the United States. I don't agree that the Army or the Marines should be acting in this way at the southern border of Mexico, because we are humans and we all have the rights to migrate. This migration policy has been pushed through because of statements and the dispute between Republicans and Democrats and a paranoid man, a mentally ill man in power in the United States, the tyrant Donald Trump, pressuring Mexico so he can get votes. There's no other reason. The exasperation of this crisis that he says will infect the United States, it's just in Donald Trump's head.
Meanwhile, the Mexican Minister of Foreign Affairs, Marcelo Ebrard, explained to the Mexican people that one part of the agreement with the U.S. will be for Mexico to house people who have applied for asylum in the U.S. as long as their applications are being processed.
Today, the Americans have decided to return 8,000 people to Mexico who are waiting for a hearing in the United States for asylum. And for these people, Mexico is offering support. And we are doing this and calling on the President of the Republic to do this for Mexico, and because of our convictions and feelings of solidarity. Whilst they're in Mexico, we will stand in solidarity with them. We are going to protect their rights.
The US and Mexico have agreed more action could be taken within 90 days if the measures do not have the desired result of drastically bringing down the numbers of undocumented migrants reaching the US border from levels that are at more than decade high. Last month alone, 132,000 were apprehended by US authorities.
Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini has stated that the last thing the Italian government wants to do is start a fight with the European Union. His statement comes ahead of a meeting later tonight between Salvini, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte and Luigi Di Maio, party leader of the Five Star Movement, with which Salvini's Lega party forms a coalition government. The meeting is expected to decide whether the coalition government will continue to function or if Prime Minister Conte will step down and call for snap elections.
Prime Minister Conte threatened last week that he will step down unless Salvini and Di Maio come to an agreement regarding government policy, especially whether the coalition government will follow EU fiscal rules or not. At today's press conference, Salvini sounded more conciliatory on the issue than previously. The recent European elections will give us greater strength in Europe, not to try and pick a fight. We have to desire to fight against anyone, but to try and reach an equilibrium that protects the work of Italians. I repeat it now, and I would repeat it to Prime Minister Conte. Our strength is that we give to Europe more than we get back from Europe. We don't need to ask for money from the Germans, or the French, or the Poles, or the Spanish, or from Luxembourg. We simply want to use for Italians the money of Italians. Salvini also stated that he wants to continue ruling together with the Five Star Movement and that the unemployment rate and tax cuts are the most important issues which the coalition government will have to focus on in the coming months. Tonight I will meet Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte and Luigi Di Maio to organize our work agenda for the coming months and for the coming years that will be centered on the issue of work, as I think the three of us all agree. The battle is to lower the unemployment rate, and we can only do that if we lower fiscal pressure. Less taxes means less unemployment. This will be the center of our constructive and positive dialogue with Europe. Political commentators have noted that snap elections could benefit Salvini if he decided to ride the wave of increasing popular support, which made it possible for the Lega party to win more than 34% of the votes in the recent European elections. Early elections would likely result in Salvini becoming prime minister with the help of his ideological allies in the Brothers of Italy party.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily weather, followed by the business, culture, history and finally the travel.